Good evening, and welcome to Lord Gugu's stream. If this is your first time watching the channel, make sure to follow to be alerted for future streams, and subscribe if you're so inclined to receive exclusive access to the Stephen Sondheim Twitch emote. Tonight's performance of Musical Theater is Good Actually will run approximately 90 minutes with one intermission, and tonight the role of guest will be played by Demi Lardner. Please take this time to note all emergency exits and silence all noise-making devices. And if you'd like to unwrap a hard candy, you are too old to be watching this Twitch stream. Please go to bed now.
Actually, I think that it's good when theater is a musical. When actors break out into song, I don't think it's unusual. I know the tropes and archetypes of all the canon classics and modern masters of the form who seek a hit that's massive. I'm very fascinated by the works of Stephen J. Sondheim. When I am listening to his work, I'm simply having a great time. You may think this is stupid, but that's simply not true factually. Because I think that musical theater is good, actually.
There's no green screen for me behind me today, everybody, folks. I'm still getting set up at my new apartment, but this is my first stream at the new place. Hello, everybody. Oh, thank you, Batesy, for that compliment. That's very nice, and thank you for joining in. I am not going to waste a lot of time except to say this is all very exciting here. Things are going to be changing. I'm very tired. I'm probably going to take next week off. But I just was so excited for this guest, and especially because we had Mitch last week, and now I have like one of the people I think is the funniest people on the internet here. Just going to blow all the smoke before I bring her in. But folks, please let me do my whole intro spiel here. Tonight's Oh, thank you, has Betsy, for the follow. Tonight's esteemed guest is someone whose comedy and just persona I was only recently introduced to just a couple of months ago, but quickly became a super fan. She's a comedian, Twitch streamer, and co-hosts the podcast BigSoftTitty.png with her partner Tom Walker. Please join me in welcoming the incredibly funny and talented Demi Lardner, who does have a green screen and is eating noodles. Wait, I was like totally just checked out at what you were doing at that exact moment. I'm gonna say you did that on purpose as a bit.
I was enjoying just listening to you talk about me, and I was like, you know what would go great with these compliments is a gob full of shin ramyun.
Yes.
And I did at the exact right moment. Hello.
Hello, welcome to the program, Demi. It's so great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
If people don't, if this is your first time maybe being introduced to Demi, I am going to say that you should go follow her channel right now, which I have up above her picture there, because seriously, it's just like, this is how now like my wife and I often start our days, because it's in the morning and we get up and we watch Demi play Resident Evil and crack up and have a great time.
That is very nice of you. I will say that because it is only me playing my stream, I think it sucks, and you should only listen to my podcast.
Oh, that's
not just me.
Well, her podcast is also amazing. When we've been also listening through now, we've been just like going back through the catalog, because we're, again, recent converts to the Demi and Tomaverse.
I love that. Man, people talk about, and we say this all the time, but people talk about how they go back through the podcast and like listen from the beginning or listen all the way back in one go, and we're like, oh, you're no.
Your brain's pudding now.
No, you can't. It's just goo. Everything's leaking out of your ears. It's not. People genuinely, and it's not. It's literally, I think, 50% of everybody who listens is like, thank you for the podcast, now I'm stupid and have depression. So
that's most of the podcasts I listen to. It's like YKS, like that's the genre of podcast I'm into. I want a podcast that's actively making me dumber. That's the goal.
Yeah, I think it's good. What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's good.
Not a boring.
It's good, actually. So Demi, before we launch into our main topic tonight, we do a little quiz where we get to know you, and this is like our good. This is how we like sort of establish the context of where you're coming from, your vague, history with musicals and all, in your opinion on all things. And when we start with the first question here is just basically taking your temperature, seeing, where we're starting from here. I'm going to give you two statements, and I want you to tell me which statement do you agree with more. Statement one. Musical theater is the pinnacle of human achievement as the purest and most complete synthesis of all art and performance. Or, musical theater is an abomination before God and man and destroying us as a society and human race. Which is closer?
Musical theater is an abomination before God and man and destroying the U.S. as a society and human race. Because...
Yes, I love it! We love when people choose to answer two.
And that is not... I love musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
It's only ever the people that love it that pick option two, I find.
Yeah. And I think that means it's true. I really think this. It is an abomination, and I don't have any other way to see it. But having said that, I do love it. My favorite shit though, and it's because again, it kind of makes me feel the same way as podcasts that I like do, and that I do think musical theater makes me dumber as well.
Right.
Really.
Well,
except for like Hamilton, which is like tricking you into fucking learning and stuff.
Yeah, but it's teaching you in a really distorted fucking thing. Also, you've said.
Well, first of all.
Wait, hang on, Demi. I have to let you know you're the one that stepped in it in this show. You said the banned word. Now this is like the part of Pee-wee's Playhouse where everything comes down, except you said the banned word. And people in the chat are trying to give their opinion on Hamilton right now, and they can't because it's a banned word in this chat.
Really? The chat won't move for me. Why isn't it working? I need the chat.
Why isn't the chat working?
Oh my god, why isn't it working for me?
The chat isn't
I'm in
working.
hell.
Hang
Isn't it working? Guys, you need to be here.
Yeah.
Guys.
Hang on. Where's my chat? Hang on. There's a way to reset chat. Oh wait, refresh chat. Let's try that. I'm refreshing. Sound off chat if you're there. Chat, can you hear me? Musicals. I like to just do musical reference sometimes. No, so listen. I am okay. Here we go.
Oh, there we go.
There we
go.
Bingen, I have said that I have a guest in mind for when we do Hamilton, and there's only one guest, and it's somebody. It's a persona by the name of Bug Main, that I think is going to be the only person that can really talk about it for a full episode. Hello, Ghoul Season. In the Heights, we do so. It's just like it's a whole can of worms because I think it's an impeccably made musical. It's a very well constructed, good storytelling in terms of like a figure. What I hate about it, and this is like American thing, is it's so Sorkin-pilled, kind of Sorkin-brained of like vision of history, in that it lionizes people like George Washington, who was a brutal slave owner who like refused to free his slaves and like hunted them down and shit. Like it's like he's bad. Like for that, but
this is what I think actually it would have done itself a great justice to be like, look at this fucking good guy. Also, he owns some slaves. We thought he was pretty cool.
But that is every mention of slavery in it is like that. It's all like, oh yeah, we still have to free some slaves, but it's like just like a little thing, or it's like, and they're doing the rap battle, and he's like, you guys own slaves, so owned, and like that was it. Like it's not actually really dealt with, and it also presents Hamilton as if he was very anti-slave, which he really wasn't.
Which he totally wasn't. Exactly.
And in fact, the Schuyler family, which he married into, of course, the famous Schuyler sisters of the song, owned many slaves. And that was sort of like the family that launched him. So there's a lot that kind of gets just swept aside. There's a really good, well, I actually haven't read the play, but I assume it's very good, called The Passion of Lin-Manuel Miranda, or I think is what it's called, and it's like Lin being visited by the real Hamilton, like when it's about to open, and it's like this really great playwright, kind of engaging with it, and it's a really cool, like, because also the central hook of it. I'm sorry, I'm talking so much right now, but you said the banned word, and this is what happens. Because when you say the banned word, It just creates discourse. It just means we have to do discourse, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But shit. What was I saying?
The play, or the movie about the play, and Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda gets visited.
Yes. Yeah. So there's this play about him. Because the central hook of it, of course, is that it's like, oh look, it's history, it's the figures of history, but it's like being performed by, a very diverse cast of people that of all races and stuff, which kind of, when you think about it, then, and the fact that it's sort of like putting a very nice glossy sheen on history, and even if it presents Hamilton as a kind of flawed guy, and Jefferson and these people, it's still a very like rah rah America, our ideals kind of bullshit, and it doesn't really satirize that or take a critical eye to that, and I think that it's a problem when like Barack Obama and George W. Bush like love your musical so much. I don't know. That bothers me.
That's a good point. That is the reddest of red flags.
Yeah,
a dog could see how red that flag is.
There's something about it that it came out at a very particular time and just took off, and now it's the biggest thing, and it's like this huge behemoth. But if it had come even
also, they did it so smart as well, because like so many, like it was very lovable by most people, and also a lot of people who already themselves were loved. So like I listened to the soundtrack because it was talked about on Comedy Bang Bang so much, and like people were just like, yeah, you can just listen to the soundtrack, it's just fucking great. And then I remember
because it's also
being like, I guess
it's one of those shows that when it's a sung through show like that, you really can put it on, and it's like, not watching it, but you're getting the experience of like the storytelling of it, basically. Yeah, and I love musicals. Well, like one of my favorites is this musical Caroline or Change, which is Tony Kushner and Janine Tesori, my number 2 after Stephen Sondheim, the God, of course. And that's a brilliant musical, and that's sung through, and that's one that I'll like put on for long car rides and stuff. All right, okay, so that's a great first answer. Okay, so you've seen like a good bit of musicals, and we'll get more into like your history, but what would be your musical theater archetype? Like if you were a character in a musical, would you be the ingenue, the villain, the sidekick / friend, the character actor / comic relief / old, or other specified, any other type?
The villain, for sure.
Oh,
I think definitely the villain.
It's the most fun. I always say they're the most fun.
I think because even though it's like really hard for me to, and I'm just going off of like what I would want to be in my favorite musical, which is Little Shop of Horrors, but I'm like, I just want to be the dentist. That's all I want to do.
I would cast you as a dentist. That'd be great. Although, you know what else I could cast you as? Because whenever Little Shop of Horror comes up, I bring up my friends in Baltimore. Still Point Theater did a production several years ago where my friend Danielle, who's this like 6'5" Amazonian woman that's like, she's awesome, and like she played Audrey too, but like they just like kind of had her be like a sort of bitchy teenage girl kind of, and they like did her like all like green paint, and there was some like leafy bits and all kinds of stuff, and so it was a whole different take instead of like the puppet. So you could do that too. That would be really badass. You be Audrey too.
Oh, I would love to do that. But honestly, I think what I would like is to be like, how I would play Audrey too is I would want my costume to be almost exactly the like ending get up in Midsummer. Have you seen Midsummer?
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I would just like have just my face showing, and then like a castle of just disgusting flowers.
Yes.
And then I'm Audrey too, and I would not do the voice.
No. And she did a different voice. She did a whole different take. I've seen that.
To do the voice when they do it in their schools, because their school somehow gets.
I feel like,
and they like to do the voice.
I feel like when I was in high school, even I would see productions where usually they would. What would happen is, like, even if you did youth theater, they would get they would have an older actor come to play that part, and that would almost always be a black man or woman, which is very good. But I don't. That was mostly just because of a sound, but yeah, like I don't really think they were even thinking of the racial politics at all at that time.
No.
In the early
I remember
2000s.
once being on tour, like doing a stand up like on the road, and we were in this big theater, and it was a big theater that had two separate theaters in it, and we were in the green room, the big green room next to the green room of a high school production of Shrek the Musical.
Oh.
And there was a lad playing Donkey.
Oh.
And he really,
Yeah.
he really donkeyed it, you know? He really did some...
He really,
first of all,
like...
he was grayed up, which... and second of all, yeah, he did some voice acting, didn't he?
Like,
Anyway.
well, yeah, he like really was emulating the Eddie Murphy-ness instead of... Because I do think... You know, I think that white actors can play that kind of a part. They just have to do their own manic energy that's unique to them and not try to...
Yeah.
But also it's hard because so many of... And I've become a Shrek the Musical defender because I've only recently watched it. I'm a big fan. I think
It's playing across the road from my home in a theater, and I am really like I have connections in it with the building, and I'm like, ooh, oh god, I think I might want to go.
I honestly, so that's Janine Tesori, that same composer, and I really like the music, and it's a slow kind of start. When I was watching it, I was like, I'm not sure, but then when I got a little more into it, it's basically the song that introduces Fiona. I mean, and also they've introduced Farquaad at that point, who's very, like, how they do Farquaad is very funny. And then
Right.
the song that introduces Fiona is just a very brilliant character introduction kind of song. And then from there, it
Totally.
really, like, picks up and gets better and better. And I actually like the musical more than the movie as the telling of Shrek. I do.
No.
I know I can't speak to how good this production is, but I will say that the original Broadway cast, or most of them, are in the on the filmed one that's on Netflix. And folks, give it a shot. I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun.
Maybe I'll just watch that then, because like I honestly,
Yeah.
when I first heard about Shrek the Musical, I was like, this is the most I'm in a coma and people are fucking with me joke outside of myself.
I agree, and I resisted for so long actually watching it, and even when so what I did, it was a recent episode with my friend Megaspell, who's amazing, and we and she's also like an animator as well, so we did a sort of double header where we talked about the SpongeBob musical and the Shrek musical. And
shit.
going into that, I was sure I was going to like the Shrek musical. I mean, the SpongeBob musical more, because I'd seen a lot of like clips of it and stuff, and I love the visual style of it and all these sort of things. And I don't know if Templeton Stag's watching now, but I have a viewer they then came on a couple weeks after, who was an original Broadway understudy for Patrick and Mr. Krabs as well. Who since came on. We love Matt Templeton Stag. We celebrate him. So that was really cool. But I honestly...
It's cool, and it genuinely is cool, but
It's very cool.
It's a funny thing to say,
Yes.
unfortunately. Oh, shit.
No, but it's like... The problem of it isn't the SpongeBob-ness of it. It's that it was a musical by committee, and there's like 20 different artists from like fucking They Might Be Giants and Flaming Lips to like T.I. and shit and Aerosmith.
T.I.?
Yeah, Steven Tyler and Joe Perry do like the worst song in it too. There's like and the T.I. song is terrible and it like doesn't fit in, but it's like, well, we have to have him on the poster that like he's one of the artists or whatever. So like it's like that's not how you're supposed to write musicals. You're supposed to workshop and no, this song doesn't work, replace it with something else.
Did they have any of the songs from the SpongeBob TV show in the musical?
A couple. They had like the Best Day Ever one that was from the movie, and then and I will say that the version that they filmed, this was very cool. It does have so much potential. The visual style, Tina Landau, the director, is brilliant, and the visual style and the way like the costumes and the sets are all amazing. But it's just. It just doesn't really add up too much. I mean, the central performance of Ethan Slater that plays SpongeBob is incredible. Oh, but what I was going to say is that the film version that it aired on Nickelodeon, and so it also sucks because it's like they have to put in like commercial bumpers, and then like the actors are being like, "Whoa, let's get back to the action. I'm the news host guy," and it's like, oh man, this sucks because like you could the actors, you could tell, are just like, because like why? But the highlight of it though is that Tom Kenny appears as like the pirate. So Tom Kenny himself is there, and that's really cool. But the musical itself,
I truly just got like a
I love
burst
Tom.
of like a sunflower in
Yeah.
my heart when you said that.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Well, but that's like sort of my, but like Tom Kenny like co-wrote like that Best Day Ever like album or whatever, like that was fully like original. Like they could have done that, and they could have had like one of the original guys of SpongeBob like make a new like a musical. Anyway, so it was just a missed opportunity because it's really cool. And then I ended up loving the Shrek musical way more. Sorry, that was a very long story. Shrek musical worth checking out. SpongeBob.
Did you say worth trekking out? I'm so sorry. Did you say worth trekking out? Hey, did you say worth shrekking out just then when you were talking about the Shrek musical? Did you say it's worth shrekking out?
It's worth shrekking out.
It's worth shrekking out.
Everybody, can we get it's worth shrekking out in the chat going, please? All right.
Please, can we get it's worth shrekking out in the chat, please, everybody?
All right, Demi, let's really get into it now.
All right.
How do you musical theater? So, first of all, we're sort of coming out of a weird time, and now you say that there is a live performance of SpongeBob, Shrek. Oh my God,
Yeah.
These things now meld together in my brain. That it's happening. So there is live theater now happening again, and it's going to start happening here in a few months or whatever. Yeah. But like even before pandemic, or how often do you like listen to show tune or a soundtrack, or watch a movie musical, or go see a musical? Like what's your history in general? Like how do you musical theater?
I would say that my passion for musical theater is stronger than my like accumulative general consumption of it. So I really, really love the musical theater that I really love, like Little Shop of Horrors. I really love. When I was a kid, my dad introduced me to Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I was too young, but that was what my dad
I think I watched that at like 9 or 10 on VH1 and being like, what is this?
But my dad was like, hey, this is really funny. And I was 10 and I was like, Dad, this is horny as fuck. And I don't even know what horny means, my dude.
Right.
So we were watching that together. And I think when it got to the point where Tim Curry was like, lovely underclothes, I was like, bro, you cannot. So I think my passion for musical theater is pretty. I got my eye twitch going on because my Dexies just kicked in. My passion for musical theater is very,
oh man, I wish I had the
great.
heart rate monitor. Sorry.
Oh man, I'll fucking set it up.
No, it's okay.
But so my favorites. I did get really into Hamilton for a time, but I've said this before. I think that might have just been the effect of living in an all music household. So I really love music. I've never.
Well, it was just so in the culture at that time too. It was like inescapable.
So very strongly, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was living with like a professional singer and a pianist, and so it was just always like let's gather around the piano and then do a bunch of Hamilton together. And I'll be like, I want to do Farmer Refuted. It's the only one I like. And then and then ask for the Will and Grace theme instead. And they're like, there's no words. It doesn't make any sense. But so I have great passion for musical theater. I wrote a musical when I was 18. I started writing it when I was 18, and then when I was 19 it was finished, and then it was like toured for like a year and a bit.
Wow. And you said, wait, this was like a horror musical, you said?
It was, yeah, I was saying before that, so it was a horror musical. It was called Wolf Creek the Musical. I don't know whether you've ever seen Wolf Creek, the movie.
No.
So basically, and it's not like, it isn't set, it isn't said anywhere, I don't think, who it is specifically based on, but it is extremely clear that it is based on this very infamous serial killer from the Australian outback, Ivan Milat. And it's basically just, this is, kind of what he did. And it's, and I think it's semi-presented as like, this is a true story, but it's, it's just like speculative shit. So it was Wolf Creek the Musical, and we toured it for a while, and it won a bunch of awards. But halfway through, I wrote it with my partner at the time, who was also a comedian, and halfway through performing it, we broke up. So it was just the worst thing that I ever did. And also, I listened back to the album of it, and there's very little that I would was in it that I would write now. Like, it would be, if I had written it now, not as like a stupid 18-year-old, I would be extremely cancelled.
And you wrote it to be kind of a comedy musical too, right? Or
It was 100%
Yeah,
a
right.
comedy musical. So it was like everything in it was ironic, but I was like, these are even for me to listen to, these are really rough things to
Well,
say. It was like very funny, but I was like, I think even with the irony of it, maybe it wouldn't work as well now.
something
But
that's
we actually never got any. We never like got any letters or like messages of people being offended because I think we were just like, anyway, doesn't this murderer suck?
right. Well, it's almost like at this day, like talking about Little Shop of Horrors. That was the movie famously has the director. You've seen the director's cut ending, I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep,
Good. I want to make sure. But like, yeah, that was shown.
Wait, which one is the director's cut?
Where Audrey 2 takes over the world.
So that is
The
the
end?
director's cut because I remember watching it with a friend once and showing them and being like, I love this musical, and I had never seen that ending before, and I didn't realize that on the DVD that's just the one that
Oh,
shows.
you must have had like you must have had the special edition like director's cut. And I will
Yeah.
say that
And so I was genuinely fucking traumatized because I was like, wait, what? Audrey! Like,
It's better.
It really messed me up for a minute, but it is better.
it's definitely better, but they had to cut it because when they showed and this is the funniest thing is that whole sequence was like a third of the budget or like half of the budget of the movie because like the movie is pretty unit set. I mean the puppets are expensive and that kind of thing, and it's a small really a small ensemble almost and so it's not like ridiculously that's not so they spent all the money on that they had to cut because when they showed the first test audiences they were like horrified, like people like the like I'm thinking of like The Simpsons with Ralph Wiggum with the dial, like if however they fucking measured it, like it was like through the roof through the whole movie, people just loving it, and then the end people are like walking out like so upset, furious because they just couldn't handle it. I compared it to they're the train coming at the screen audiences of the time. It's like, come on, people. They didn't understand irony then. But like now, it like if it was, and they actually could and honestly should remake it. Why not? I mean,
I think so. Fuck it. But also,
with the right
when
person.
would you set it? Because like my
I feel like it
like,
has to be in that original time because that's like it's so tied into like the original B movie that it's the Roger Corman or whatever. Yeah.
Because I have always thought that like the reason that the Little Shop of Horrors with Ellen Greene is so timeless is because I mean if you're making fun of a different time, it's not really gonna get old.
Right.
And I don't know.
That's sort of that's like
the
there's a lot of enduring classics, like that's like sort of why Grease kind of goes on because Grease premiered in the 1970s, like and around the same time as like fucking Happy Days and stuff, and it's like people that's when like. And then they kept talking about the 1950s and 60s for approximately 40 years or so. They're still not. They still haven't shut the fuck up about it.
Oh my god, take me back. I was born in the wrong era. I want a big silver cup to drink out of.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah,
Let's go to the malt
and
shop.
racism, wasn't
Right.
that right?
You go to that water fountain, actually. Sorry.
Yeah, very cool, everybody.
Right. Yeah, but I think something that with comedy musicals that can be tough, and I've talked about this with even like the really great ones, like a Book of Mormon or I don't know. I can't think of another example
One of the
right
only
now.
ones I've actually seen live in a theater is Book of Mormon, and
Which I think has a couple of great numbers. I think like I Believe's really good, and it has a lot of funny numbers, and certainly like the Fuck You God, like that's very very funny. But like musically, the songs, besides maybe 2 or 3 of them, I think aren't very like strong as songs because the music kind of has to take a backseat to the joke, so that the joke comes through clear. And that's such a difficult balance to do. So I can see how like revisiting something, without that sort of live energy of the comedy or without time and I don't know, it's just not hitting as hard or whatever.
Yeah. Which is like, I think, and also like, speaking of which, when we wrote our musical, the aim was always the joke because literally none of us could sing at all. And like, I was also playing a male character, so I had like a drawn-on beard and was speaking with this shitty, gross, deep voice, and like, it just, all my songs sounded fucking terrible. But I think actually the only one that I would like be comfortable listening to or singing out was one of my songs. So like, I'm the only one that doesn't get cancelled. even though I wrote it all. But oh shit, what was I gonna say about? Oh, Book of Mormon. Yeah, it was like the only one that I'd ever actually seen live. No, I've only seen a couple live. I did see Rocky Horror Picture Show, and the production of it that I saw sucked dog dicks. Like, and I was so, not all of it, but also pretty quickly after I saw it, the guy who played Frankenfurter, who was from, I think it was like Home and Away in Australia or something. I can't remember the guy's name. It's because I thought he was so terrible. But then he was like extremely cancelled, and I was like, well,
a Frankenfurter that gets cancelled is oof. I mean, you're
Isn't
already
that
walking
fucked?
such a tightrope, and then
Right? You can't be the creep that you're pretending to be.
No.
It's like it's so on
you
the
have
nose,
to be
but,
Tim
like,
Curry. You have to be like
Yeah. You have to be Tim Curry.
You have to be that
I think
kind of
actually, that fucking guy's name, I think it's Michael something. And he just I keep trying to say Matthew McConaughey. It's not that. But anyway, he just sucks, and that is an annoying thing about, like, you know, when people play such like wonderfully awful and like strong character personas and then turn out to be a real piece of shit. It kind of wrecks it a little.
Nickel Doodle in the chat is bringing up Beetlejuice the musical. Have you watched any of that? The new Beetlejuice musical?
No. I
watched.
Hi, Nick.
I watched most of the first act, and I just like didn't finish it, but I was actually quite enjoying it. The Alex Brightman that plays Beetlejuice is incredible, and I forget the actress's name that plays Lydia is also insanely good. It's pretty fun actually, and it was like critically not liked, but then the audiences were like, "Fuck you, you're wrong." Like, this is great,
awesome.
we love it, and
love that.
and they like kept
was
trying to like
controversial. I
cancel
watched
it,
the musical.
and like the musical, but the audiences were like being like, "No, we want to keep seeing it," so it just moved theaters.
That
and,
fucking rips. I love that.
yeah,
Critics are wrong.
they are wrong
Except
about
when they're
Beetlejuice
not.
musical.
Except when I agree with them.
That's right. That's true. They were right about the Greatest Showman movie, but we don't have time to get into Greatest Showman right now. But I will say your countryman Hugh Jackman has a lot to answer for with with Greatest Showman. It's a war crime.
Yeah, there's a lot to answer for in a lot of fucking ways, dude. He's
Okay. We're putting him on
Right.
trial, and you have to. Sorry.
Yeah.
Next question. It's a two-parter. We kind of gone into this a little bit, maybe. So we'll just we can any that we haven't mentioned. What musicals should be more popular or beloved, and which should be less popular?
I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the ones that I really like are kind of already are beloved. Although it is weird to me when people haven't. I think there is a big blank space in a lot of people's brains for Little Shop of Horrors. Or, you know, the people that I know that don't know about musical theater.
Right. Well, they
I
think
don't
that
know.
it's like sincere or something. They're like it's like the whole thing is that, I mean, and that's another brilliant team of Ashman and Menken, Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, who Howard Ashman tragically died very young from AIDS, like right around 1991 or something, but he still had he still gets credited up to Aladdin, maybe Lion King, but they did like all of those, like Little Mermaid.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about fucking cartoon musicals. Well, I mean, it's they're
most of them have now been stage adapted anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Man, watching the new Aladdin with Blue Will Smith was such an incredible experience for me.
Oh yeah. I honestly, of the live action musicals, of the new Disney, how they've been doing them all again live action, that was the one that I disliked the least, was the Aladdin one.
Yes. Not to say that it wasn't hot trash, but
I agree.
I
found
Yeah, I think so.
specifically the actors that played Aladdin and Jasmine very charming. I didn't have anything negative
Yeah.
to say about them.
The thing that kept confusing me about Jasmine, and also I found out the other day that she's in another movie that I watched recently and she was really good in, but she looks so much like Sarah Michelle Gellar to me.
She was
that it
in
kept distracting me.
Shazam? Is she one of the Shazamies? No,
I
she's
know,
Power
Ren
Ranger.
is-
I confused. She's the pink Power Ranger in the Power Ranger remake. Have you seen that? You see that, right?
That is not at all what I'm thinking of, but
We
but
watch
that's
trash
good
in
to
my
know.
house, so we have watched it. I always confuse
I-
Shazam and the Power Ranger movies because they are essentially the same in the end. Any that you're sick of though? Any musicals that are could do without that get referenced a lot or?
I mean, we did talk about Hamilton, and I'm kind of like, yeah,
I
all right,
mean-
we get it. But I think I was sick of it so long ago that it doesn't count anymore. I'm done even thinking about it. But maybe.
What about like some of like the other big ones? Like what about like Rent or you have
Yeah,
opinions on Rent?
I don't really have opinions on Rent. I think everybody really seems like a lot of people really love Rent, and I'm like, that is great for you to love Rent, and I think that Rent is Rent, and it's
Everything is
good
Rent.
that it's Rent. Everything's Rent.
It's it is kind of it's a little bit of a relic, but it also kind of holds up as a sort of period piece. Kind of, it is. What's always funny to me about Rent is that what ended up happening in real life after Rent, like to those characters or like in that world, was everybody became Benny in New York. Like that's it. Everybody got priced out. It's not a happy ending.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think the one thing that I don't think I'm completely sick of a musical in particular, but one thing that I am sick of is some of the discussions
Hey,
around...
thanks for the raid, Totes Vidya.
Oh,
I'm gonna sing
freaking
Demi's
hell.
raid song. Dun, 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 dun. Dad zoomed in on mom's titties. Sorry. That's it.
Just a bop.
Just a
I
little
remember-
stretch of it.
Somebody the other way sent a message. I think it was just in the chat. Someone was like, man, this is what is stuck in my head now. I can't even remember the words to the original song. And I was like,
I will just sing
the
it
words
to my
are,
wife
are
sometimes.
you ready for this? There are no other words.
Yes, there are. Now there are, and you wrote them.
Oh, you scared the shit out of me then. I thought I was
Oh,
wrong
you-
about something.
No.
Before. But I think the one thing that I am sick of around musical theater is like discussion of different things. Like I would say maybe one of the main ones is like the discussion about like around Rocky Horror Picture Show, where people are like, actually it's transphobic, and I'm like, it hasn't aged in a particularly incredible way, but it was very formative for people who didn't have even that much representation at the time. So I think we
For
can probably
queer
just like,
or
you know, like
gender
some things about it, and
non-conforming,
then
of the
kind of let go of the things
late
that we
70s and
don't.
80s. Yeah, I feel the same way. A musical that was really important to me and that I still love to a degree, but also is sort of similar. I mean, it's not as offensive as Rocky Horror, but Hedwig and the Angry Inch is another one that's similar. I do think it's very humanist, and Hedwig is very, very sympathetic, and her whole, and you know, she does, but like the whole circumstances around her transition and all that kind of stuff, and everything in the story, you know, and the fact that, you know, it was written by a cis white guy. I mean, like, so all that sort of adds up to.
Yeah, Binging Game says, I hate Rocky Horror and I'm trans and I don't think it's that transphobic. Yeah, I'm not trans, I'm like a queer baby, but like I think it's just, I would never tell you how to feel about something, but I think the saying that it's like overtly transphobic is just a little bit like...
It's like when people are like the old Lou Reed song, Take a Walk on the Wild Side, because there's like, you know, change his name now, he was a she, and it's like there's sort of like, and that was like the understanding of the time. It was still a very like subversive and queer anthem-y kind of song at the time, like, so it doesn't hold up to our time, but you know, you have to kind of take it in its sort of context of it.
But also, I think potentially I would advocate for, like, for people who liked it and it meant a lot for them, you know, in, like, affirming their gender identity and stuff. I think we also do have to say, I think potentially fuck Richard O'Brien, because I think he actually is an overt transphobe.
Oh, is he a TERF? So for sure. Oh, but
fuck that guy.
He's an old British person,
Definitely.
so we just assume they're a TERF.
Yeah, we just have to fuck this.
If you live in the Isle of Great Britain, well, I'll say... maybe Wales and Scotland, I don't know about you, but certainly the England part here, and you are over the age of 55, we're assuming TERF. We're just assuming TERF, and you have to identify yourself as non-TERF, just so we know.
Oh, Actually, really quickly, because you mentioned Hedwig and the Angry Inch, there is a really good. I'm gonna see if I can find a link to it. But my friend Jordan Raskopoulos, who is a trans woman, did a amazing and like really concise like video essay on because there was some controversy about a performance of Hedwig that had a cis man as playing Hedwig, and it obviously that sucks shit. But there was really, really concise reasoning behind basically the idea that we're talking about right now that Jordan presents. So I'm going to try and find the link in a bit, and then I'll put it in the chat
Demi,
because it's really fucking good.
I will say, cancel me because freshman in college, put on by the Towson University Queer Student Union. I mean, you know, cis man here. There we go, everybody.
You're fucking done, God.
2005, February 2005. 18 years old, not yet 19. Yeah, I mean, it was a really, really cool production. I mean, like, a lot of people came and, was really well received by all those crowds at the time. It just sort of tells you, but you're right, that if it happened now, I shouldn't play it necessarily. And
and there's also, because there's so much discussion behind like, but like it's kind of a different story because like, you know, she wasn't supposed to be.
It's a very like it's not necessarily somebody that was identifying as a woman necessarily, was more forced in, but that's again that's the story that gets elevated, does a very huge disservice to what people know about trans people and that sort of thing, obviously. Anyway, we should stop cis-splaining trans issues, I guess. All right, this is the last question of the quiz. In the musical of your life, what are you singing as your 11 o'clock number? So the 11 o'clock number in Little Shop of Horrors would probably be Mean Green Mother from Outer Space, I guess, or something that's Green Reprise, where she gets eaten in the real ending.
Now, why is it called 11 o'clock number? Because this is actually, even as someone who really loves musical theater, I have no fucking idea what the origin of that is and what it is supposed to particularly exactly.
So it's actually like a literal that was around when this number would happen, because like in the old days of Broadway, they took long intermissions. People, I mean, we've all seen Mad Men. They were loaded. They were going to the bar. They were getting fucking hammered, and they were going, you know, second, third round. So it would like take a while, and then 11. That's the number that it's like. It almost like signals to the house crew, like, okay, people are gonna start leaving. You know, it's almost the end. Because it's like it's at the end of the show, and you know, with a 3-hour musical with a 30-minute intermission or whatever it is, that would be when that big like sum it up number. I always say the most classic example for this to me is always going to be Rose's Turn from Gypsy, which is a musical whose title I always feel like that's what it's called, but I feel weird saying it, but that's what it's called.
Yeah.
But anyway,
well, it's exactly. I mean, it's that's.
Well, because that has roots in a sort of show. There's another meaning that has like a showbiz kind of roots, and also it's the real. There was a real performer, Gypsy Rose Lee, and it's based on her memoirs. So like.
Yeah. So it's like there's a whole fucking like performers are so. It's that stuff is so weird. Like, how much of the integrity of something, name something like that, do you hold on to? But I think in that case, it's like, it's fucking what it's called. What do you
I'm
want me to
very
do?
excited when we get into our main topic after you answer this question, and we after we go to break. There is a really, really, if you think this is some, you know, sticky wickets or whatever, some balls of wax here. Wait till you see the one kicked up by our fine British fellows of Gilbert and Sullivan. Not this show. This show is that we're talking about is pure and wonderful, I think. But anyway, so what would be like your number that this is the musical of your life, and this is you kind of summing up what you've learned or like your whole worldview now or whatever. Another
And
11.
it's allowed to be like any song, or does it have to be a song from a musical?
It can be any song. It can even be a song that doesn't exist. It can be like, it would be a song like this or something. What's like your song that's like your "This Is Me" kind of song?
Oh my god!
Mhm.
I think it would maybe be "Zombie" by the Cranberries.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
And here's why. None of the meaning really. I love zombies, but none of the song actually really means anything to me. I just want to be as ugly as I possibly can when I'm singing. And if you're allowing me to
the
sing
head.
zombie,
I love that. And you just like
that
are
sums me up
essentially having a tantrum on the stage at a certain
Yeah.
point. Okay, that's great.
pretty much.
Well, that's wonderful. Demi, this has been a really great way to get to know you here. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break so that we can get some water, get ourselves ready, you know. Although it is late, so I'm going to be back in 5. So we'll be back at 11:58, everybody. So don't go far. And then when we get back, we are talking about the Pirates of Penzance movie, people. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, stick around. We'll be back in 5. Oh, we're back! Okay, it took a couple more minutes, but it's alright. Demi, here we are. We're back again.
Can't stop.
Back again. So we today are talking about the oldest musical that has been talked about on the show yet. Easily.
Ooh.
Easily. By
Oh yeah.
almost, 80 years or something. I can't think of what the oldest one before this was. But yeah, this was
Wasn't this one first done in like 18?
18.
Wasn't it written in 1870?
1870. Okay, I sure enough did close the window that had all my wikis up. It's okay. It's fine. 1870. Hang on. 1880. Oh, that was.
1880.
Oh no, 1879. Okay, well, okay. December
Old as fuck.
31st, 1879. Okay, so it was
Okay, it's
1880.
fucking 1880.
It was 1880. But actually, so the circumstances of its premiere are kind of funny because, so this was Gilbert and Sullivan, couple of British blokes, couple of just silly little British men. Gilbert does the.
Outlaw fucking Doctor Who, but like, oh, we love it.
In it.
Beans for fucking breakfast.
In it. Oh.
In it, you fucking nicked out coppers with funny little fucking ass.
We love the Queen! We love the Queen!
Which that's a plot point in the show that we're talking about.
Fucking is, isn't it?
But which is very funny. This was their first show after HMS Pinafore, which was kind of their first big hit. Now, people watching this stream now, you may only know the work of Gilbert and Sullivan as it has been portrayed on the televisual programs The Simpsons and the Family Guy. Where they're frequently referenced because it's I kind of think a classic thing that smart people like to reference to show they're smart, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is a shame because I think because like another person who loves to reference it is Sorkin. I actually meant to show the clip of on Studio 60 on the Sunset. Do you know the work of Aaron Sorkin at all, Demi?
I don't, but I bet if you like, not by the name, but I bet if you tell me, I'll be like, oh yeah.
So
I'm
his
just like,
most famous work is The West Wing, which is the the president. That was followed up. His next series was a show called Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. It premiered at the same time as 30 Rock, and it had the same premise. It was except that was a live sketch comedy show that happened in LA for some reason, and it took itself extremely seriously. It has. So if you know the beginning of The Newsroom, another Sorkin, where Jeff Newsroom, Jeff Daniels, does his whole like speech where he's like, "We're not the greatest country in America," and he like does that whole rant. That whole mold started with Studio 60. It has this guy doing like, it's like the like old executive producer like goes out on the camera and he like does this full on Howard Beale and network rant or whatever. Really off the point. It's just like the show was extremely silly because it took itself as seriously as The West Wing, except it was about a sketch comedy show. And something that happens in a drama about comedy where they're talking about how the show is important and so funny and so smart is that it's often means that the comedy that is portrayed in that show is the least funny thing that's ever happened. There's like which in 30 Rock they make the joke is that the sketches are so stupid and bad always anytime you see them, and that's funny. But so one of the sketches, so like there's also like the creators are Matthew Perry and Bradley Whitford. Great pairing of just awesome douchebags. And
Matthew Perry.
Yes, Chandler and Dad from Get Out, they are
No.
But anyway, I think the Matthew Perry character, I want to say, is like they hire him onto the show and it's like so controversial and like all the newspapers are talking about it because he like has a history of drugs. He's the Sorkin stand-in, you see. Are people just not chatting, or is the chat dead again? Hang on, I'm refreshing this chat.
It depends. Guys, are you just not chatting? You have to chat, otherwise
we feel like we're just alone up here. Okay, there we go. Okay, I refreshed, and now it's back. So they just
don't want to fucking talk to us.
It's back. We're back, everybody.
Are you just listening, or are you disinterested?
Okay, so anyway, this is a whole long setup to say that there is a very funny reference to Modern Major General, which is always the one that gets parodied from this the most.
Of course.
Because it's fun to just, like, put a bunch of words together and stuff. Hey, I did it. Wasn't that hard. I also had the words right in front of me when I recorded it. It was fine. But they do this whole thing where it's like, and the only thing I remember from the Studio 60 bit is they're like, and you don't even care that our producer was once on Blow or something, and it's like, ha 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 ha, and they're like, we are the very model of a modern sketch show or some bullshit.
Yeah.
It was, and like the audience, the studio audience is like, ah ha ha ha, they're like, oh my,
I can't believe they said the smart thing. Oh my god!
And all the people are like standing around like, oh, this is so brilliant, and it's like this is like the most brilliant sketch that's ever happened. It's like, what the fuck?
My favorite shit is this is just like my favorite shit to watch comedians do and get applause for, because I'm like, you are doing a fucking trick. You're no better than a magician. And if you were a magician, the small of my back would be touched. So, but it's like when comedians like come on stage and they start off a premise and then get faster and faster, and they're like, list, and then they get to the end and they yell the last one, and everyone's like, yes, I can't believe you remembered
it's
that
just a
many
trick.
words.
Right.
It's all a fucking trick, and I do tricks, like, all of my shit in comedy is tricks, but they're not lists, so mine are fine.
Well, we'll get into the actual song itself, because I think it is, yeah, you're right that is why people do it. But the song itself is, and all the lyrics, I think, are very funny. Little Brendan here in the chat is saying, I really hope you're about to trash Pirates of Penzance. Well, Little Brendan,
Uh-oh.
I hate to disappoint you.
Oh, no.
But I think it's good, actually. Personally.
I think it's good, actually, too.
Yeah. I
had a couple of things that I will admit something to you. Because I loved watching it and I was surprised by it. For the first, like, maybe 25 minutes, I was like, get on with it. And then once it got into certain parts, I was like, ooh, yum, 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 yum,
I
yum.
think
but there were still a couple songs where the joke was, this song is going too long, that I was like, 15-second skip. But just a couple times. Because I just couldn't.
I think where it really starts popping off is when the daughters join in. That's when it starts to get really, really funny to me.
Yes, definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
But also, one thing that I will say that really made me laugh before that was, oh, actually, am I skipping ahead too quick? Should we be talking about the first bits? I think it is, and this will always be funny to me. But first of all, I fucking love Angela Lansbury. I've seen her live in theater once ever. I saw her do Driving Miss Daisy with, man.
Demi,
I
have to ask you something. I have to ask you something
Yes.
right now before we do anything else.
Yeah.
Because I just realized something.
What?
I just need to make sure or check on something. Have you seen the Sweeney Todd with Angela Lansbury?
I didn't know there was one, sir.
Demi,
Oh, tits.
Demi,
Yeah.
you can't see this thing soon enough. You need to, whenever the next time you have 2.5 hours or whatever, and you need to track this thing down.
Okay.
If you have not seen this and you love Angela Lansbury, this is her best work. It's
Really? I
Sondheim,
also liked her in Court Jester, but that might have been.
Sondheim wrote the part for her. She's so brilliant in it, and it's just like, she's a delight. Okay, yeah, Sweeney Todd, fine. It's fine. It's like 1980
I'll find it.
ish, or 1983. You're gonna
gonna
want to
note
get
it
that.
down.
Okay, sorry. Continue on
Anyway,
about when you saw Angela Lansbury live.
I saw her. I was in Adelaide and I got free tickets. A friend couldn't go, so I got free tickets to Driving Miss Daisy with her and
Oh, wow.
James Earl Jones. And some other guy who I think is like big in theater. He was like a younger guy, and he was like people seem to know who he was, but I don't know who it was. But yeah, she was fucking sick. She was so good at also when she played a super old lady that I think her age was actually quite a bit closer to. She was so good at acting extremely young up until that point. It wasn't like any makeup shit, obviously, because it was theater, but playing herself young and then old, I was like, oh my god, I can't fucking believe you. It's so good. But also seeing her in Penzance was a real fucking treat.
Yeah, I mean, especially because this is this is right around when she was also doing that same Sweeney Todd, and this is at height of her abilities, Auntie Mame and that kind of shit. This is Angela Lansbury hitting. I mean, she always did, but I mean, she is so well suited for this.
Ooh, Gotcha Zach thinks the full 82 Sweeney Todd is on YouTube.
Maybe.
So I will be looking that up.
Maybe.
I'll look it up because the Pirates was, which
Yeah.
I was very surprised by. But the funny thing to me, and this will always be funny when it happens in something, is so their song was the song that she's singing with him on the beach is about how she lied about she didn't, but she's like, I'm not hot 'cause I'm 47, and she's pretty much that age as an actor when she's doing it, and it will always be funny to me for an actor to be like, yeah, I'm a fucking piece of shit because I'm ugly, and they are.
Right.
It must be a really rough thing. To have to do on set.
47. Yeah, right. I mean, it is. It is a very. I mean, if we are canceling anything about this show, I mean, Twitter would have a field day of a 47-year-old woman lusting after, and that she groomed. She literally raised him from a child until he was 21, and she's like, "Hey, let's get married now." Yeah, she's a big creep, and I think she played to be a bit of a creep.
And if you're gonna groom someone, why don't you groom them to old broads? If you're gonna then try and bone them afterwards, this is your fault that you're not attracted to
It's
it.
like she didn't think of this until his 21st birthday. That she's like, "Oh fuck, I have to get him to want to settle down with me."
Shit.
I mean, it is all very funny. Okay, wait, let's pull back real far back on Pirates of Penzance and Gilbert and Sullivan. I'm very fascinated just with them in general. But anyway, this was their first big work after HMS Pinafore, which was their first sort of big hit. And HMS Pinafore premiered in London, and then what happened was those filthy fucking Americans with their copyright laws that doesn't at the time didn't recognize copyrights established in other countries, so they just started doing productions of HMS Pinafore just willy-nilly everywhere, all over the country, and so when they did this next show, Pirates of Penzance, which they were like, this one's really good, this one is even better and I think it is, this is their best work. They premiered it in New York in America. So that way they're like, okay, now fuck you. We own the rights to this. And but then like from that point on, they were regularly doing productions, tours, and like Gilbert and Sullivan production societies like form up then that still exist, that are still going. So it's like a whole tradition of like a kind of musical in and of itself. Beyond those cartoons and like sort of references, did you have any familiarity with like any of the Gilbert and Sullivan, Mikado, or any of those other ones?
Not really. Although I probably again do, but I'm just like, you know, kind of stupid at stuff and don't look into things. So like
for Simpsons wise, so the episode of The Simpsons is Cape Fear. With the E at the end.
And it's very funny to be making like a reference in a 100% referenced episode of The Simpsons, like to be doing a parody of Cape Fear and then be like, and you know what would go great here?
Like multiple Gilbert and Sullivan references. So they when they're driving, they're listening to like it's like the collected Gilbert and Sullivan tapes or something, I forget what it is, and they're listening to the Mikado, and then on the way, then because like they basically teased that to be Chekhov's Gilbert and Sullivan, that then when at the end Bart has Sideshow Bob perform a solo HMS Pinafore basically for him.
So funny, and as a kid not understanding at fucking all what that meant, it hit so good.
And I think it's because it's like,
this is a long thing. Well, great.
It's because I think like they tapped into such like a specific and like identifiable like kind of like style that even if you had never encountered it before, that when you see it for the first time, it's so like this complete like thing. And it's like sort of fascinating because like it just kind of draws you in. It's like, I mean, it's sort of analogous to Shakespeare in a lot of ways. I think in that like these shows are some of these jokes are so funny. Like some of like the jokes that are in the original script, like the orphan shit. Come on.
Do you know how fucking long it took me to figure that out? Just for a minute, I was like, I don't understand the joke. I don't get it. And then until they were talking about it like later at night next to those stone pillars, I was like, orphan! I get it.
Which is itself a joke on a British accent. Like, and that's the other thing is I think is that like, so HMS Pinafore is like very like Her Majesty's like Navy, and it's not really, I mean, it's like, I'm honestly not that familiar with HMS Pinafore.
It makes me think that I would be fucking bored to tears. I think that is like that is the vibe that I get.
Well, they
from
show
it,
a clip of it in this movie, which I love.
Old parts watching it,
right, and it's like, and I almost feel like it's almost a reference to that kind of, and I think it's supposed to almost be in America, or I don't know. There's like there's a America and England like thing. So the very beginning of the movie, it's like you're in Penzance kind of, and it's like this resort vacation town almost, and then like they see pirates. Well, first things first, they play the overture at like 5 times speed and volume. It's like the most insane overture I've ever heard. It like sounds like it's at like coming out of like a player piano or something that like somebody's like done a ton of coke and then like cranked the like knob to make it go super fast, which is kind of a fun way to set the vibe. And then they don't even, and then they start showing the credits after that, so it's like nothing but like curtains and playing this really loud fast music, which is crazy.
That made me think also that I was like watching a bad copy because I was like, nothing is happening and this is really long and the curtains aren't doing anything. I think I'm just watching a video of curtains, and that would be fine if I was my auntie, but I'm not, and I don't want to just look at these curtains forever. Oh, the movie's starting great.
Yeah.
What am I feeling?
I mean, I get it. I feel like they were that it was kind of a like classic, because like when they would do like old classic movie musicals in the 50s and 60s, you know, they would have the full overture where like and like, you know, the full movie house or whatever, and then they would do, you know, an intermission, and they would have and like all that kind of stuff. And then another thing I really love about the movie is that they really don't try to hide Act 1 and Act 2. Like, literally at the end of Act 1, it pulls in, and then Act 2 it pulls back out. And, like, right away. And it's like, these are acts. It doesn't try to, because, again, like, it's all so specific in its voice and its, like, comic and, like, style and point of view or whatever, that you couldn't...
It's making fun of itself at a couple different points, which I... like, obviously really appreciate, because again, don't take yourself seriously, but like, yeah, I really loved that about it. Like just asides in songs and stuff, which might only be like, you know, part of the movie, but still, especially like it's not part of the original Pirates of Penzance to make fun of HMS Pinafore, is it?
No,
it can't be.
But I do think I do think that's a little wink to that sort of history of like the unlicensed productions. I almost feel like that's kind of why it's a pretty amateurish, crappy production that they show, and they show a good bit of it, so that what's really funny when the pirates interrupt it, because there's a big climactic battle at the end, and then the pirates get chased through the town. And earlier, when you've seen the town, they do have an advertisement for HMS Pinafore, and then like they run in through the stage door, and then they go.
Fucking great.
So it's a nice little wink. Fourth. It's almost, it reminded me a lot of the end of Blazing Saddles when they're running through all the sets, and then they run into the movie theater to watch how the
exactly. That's exactly what I was going to bring up as well. There's that it's like, and I guess it was kind of, this was 83. Blazing Saddles was what, late 80s, or was
that was 70s. I want to say that was 77 or so, maybe ish. Yes. And so this is the other thing about this production. So or this movie is this is a direct adaptation of a production directed by Joseph Papp, who is a very famous theater director. Probably his best known work, I would say, would be, because he's a guy that Shakespeare in the Park, which I don't know if you've ever heard of. It's in Central Park in New York. It's like they do free shows typically, and you have to go and line up, and people like line up all day and like wait and go. And no, they do sell tickets sometimes. I don't know. I don't live in New York. I don't fucking know this shit. But anyway, like Hair originated there, so he was the original director of Hair. But this was one of his most famous productions, and it really kind of revitalized interest in the show and Gilbert and Sullivan in a lot of ways. It did kind of put a more Broadway musical comedy layer on it, while still kind of being true to the comedy there. So it does have like big departures from like I was saying, sort of like Gilbert and Sullivan societies and the way they played it. Like the Pirate King is played a bit more like sexier, or like more of an actual, you know, like cool guy, maybe. I mean, even though he's a dumbass, which is also funny. They're also a little bit broader, and like Frederick is played a bit more broad, and Frederick's something I really love, and that's the ingenue. That's just like, because ingenues are dumb, so I love when an ingenue is dumb on purpose, and that's part of the joke. Those are my favorite kinds. Like in Urinetown, I love those leads. A funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, the God Sondheim, that has great ingenues. And Mabel's kind of the same way too, although I think that the girls are actually kind of smart and like having fun the entire time and just fucking with everybody.
It seems like it, right? Are the girls? I'm pretty sure. So the whole thing about like the chorus in the 1983 Pirates is, because I was reading about it at the same time. They are lip syncing, right?
So so some of the smaller parts they actually cast like the like more British looking people basically, but it's the original cast. It's like the original people that played it. Now I will,
because I'm pretty sure. Oh yes, please.
No, I will say it was just an interesting person that I found out, at least that Google told me was in this movie. It's Keith David. The great Keith David, the voice actor. He's in, let's see, The Nice Guys, and you'd know him if you see him. He's like an amazing character actor that's been acting forever. He's the one black pirate. That's Keith David, I guess.
Oh,
that's what Google told me.
David. Wow.
He does.
They love to. I know this guy.
Yeah.
Fucking yes.
Yeah. He's a really cool
Princess
guy.
and the Frog as well. He's in The Thing.
Oh yes, he is in The Thing. Yes, we love
Oh my
And They Live.
God,
He's
yes.
in both The Thing and They Live. That's
Yeah.
a good.
I think, yeah, they also, IMDb wants to make it very, 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 very clear. I think it mentions it about 7 times in the trivia that Angela Lansbury is the only person that didn't, that she's not in the Broadway show. That's the only person that didn't return, was the person who played Beth?
Well, and I think what's kind of amazing about it, well, at least, yeah, of the principals especially, yeah, and what's amazing about that is because, so, that Shakespeare in the Park production's in 1980. It transfers to Broadway in 1981. Has its London production in 1982. The movie comes out in 1983. That's, like, pretty incredible.
Really quick, right?
I mean, yes, to have all that happen in such quick succession,
Yeah.
that is pretty damn fast, I think. I mean, I guess it was sort of a established work and style, and so people, and I don't know what it was about the time that people were just kind of ready for it, and and no revival since has really hit in the same way, like with critics and audiences when people have tried, I guess. At least the big marquee ones like on Broadway and stuff, critics are like, because especially they try to do this more kind of style, and for whatever reason critics doesn't hit with them as much the way that it did. But anyway, so it is pretty much a very direct adaptation of that stage show.
But there was one song, they added a song that
They
wasn't
added a
in
couple
the stage
songs.
show, right?
Yeah, there's...
they added a couple? Because I thought it was only, was it My Eyes Are Open? Which is like, they're like, this is like the most dizzyingly fast, I think it said, song by Gilbert and Sullivan or something.
So...
Because I thought like Modern Major General was pretty fucking fast.
Modern Major General is definitely fast. Hang on. I'm on the wrong...
My Eyes Are Open. Because also, one thing that I wanted to say about, that is the wrong thing, Pirates of that it's very funny to have a, oh no, it really doesn't matter. Oh yeah, brackets, My Eyes Are Open, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is another thing that I'm like, it is incredible to, not literal disrespect, but it is so incredible to disrespect a singer and actor so much to make them sing the fastest song possible, like, to humankind, but the song is about the song not mattering.
Oh, it really doesn't matter. Like, yeah, it's the matter pattern, which is from
so pissed off
one of their lesser works, Ruddigore, or The Witch's Curse. Yes, it's a comic opera. I don't know what it's about. But yeah, that's one of the lesser known. Those there are some Gilbert and Sullivan that I just like. I've heard the names, but I know nothing about them. Like Langoliers. Yeah. Now, the Gilbert and Sullivan work that we do need to talk about before we like talk about the rest of the Pirates of Penzance thing, because this is where we cancel them. Okay. Is the play the musical The Mikado, which up until 5-6 years ago was, I would say, after Pirates of Penzance, their most popular and performed show. Yeah. But it's insanely racist. It's like the peak of, kind of like Orientalism. I mean, and I will say one of my favorite movies is the movie Topsy Turvy, which is a Mike Leigh film that is all the greatest British actors. It stars Jim Broadbent as Gilbert. Who plays Sullivan? I can't remember the other actor's name, but also Timothy Spall's in it. The Moaning Myrtle actress, I can't remember her name. I mean, like all these... highest voice. Yes, yeah. all these great British actors. And it's about Gilbert and Sullivan, and I forget their show they're coming off of that isn't successful, and The Mikado is one of their later works, and they were and it was kind of like a comeback. But it gets into sort of the circumstances of the writing, and it literally is just Gilbert went to, like, there was like whatever, the World's Fair or whatever, like some Japanese exhibition, and he goes and he just doesn't speak the language, doesn't know how to talk to anybody. He's just like fascinated by all the artifacts and all the stuff. And there's a scene that's extremely, racist. Like, and I think that's why I love the movies, because it presents this as sort of a racist endeavor, but also the artistry of it is all beautiful and the music and all of that. But like, it doesn't really hide that, and it's a really just kind of clear presentation of that. But there's a scene where he like has got all these artifacts, and he has like the sword, or like the samurai sword, and he's doing like the most offensive, like I can't even do what he does. Like I can't even describe it without it being very offensive. But like, and so 5 or 6 years ago there started to be some high profile productions that finally people are a little more empowered, I guess, to start being like, yo, this show's fucked up. Because like I've heard of like there's a certain company that did a production where they like did this in rep with Pirates of Penzance, and the way that they would present it was, they wouldn't code like, because the whole thing is like the Mikado is like this foreign land that's very mysterious and it's very mystical and magical, but again, it's not really engaging with any real history or anything that's like anything that's really there, and so it's all very invented. So that people have tried to make it like not tied to an Asian race at all, and kind of make it just a sort of more nondescript. But then still, that's sort of the roots of it. Like you can't really escape like that. It's that sort of very gross kind of engaging with it. But the music's beautiful, and it has the three little greats from school are we, da, 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 da. And there's some very, very cool scenes. I really recommend that movie if you can get your hands on Topsy Turvy. But yeah, so the Mikado is a very, very canceled work by them. And I just remember, like on social media and stuff several years ago, that being just a very hot button thing of there was supposed to be opera production or whatever, and people being like, yo, we got to stop doing this show. You can listen to recordings or like maybe do a song out of context or whatever, like, but like doing the show is racist. I mean, like you can
like if there's no point that you're making, you're just like doing the show. And even if there is, is it good enough to like,
right, especially with the history of it,
exactly,
and I mean, and spoiler alert, in the grand history of performances of Mikado, I especially opera companies, Gilbert and Sullivan companies, I would venture to guess 99% of the actors that have ever performed in Mikado were not Asian, honestly. I would say. So we're talking about a history of people with faces painted and all kinds of things. Again, rooted in a guy, the origination of this thing were people that literally didn't understand and didn't really want to actually understand. They just wanted to kind of
I was once asked by the South Australian opera company to play to be a stunt double for the character of in a musical of Moby Dick. They asked me to be the stunt double for the character of Pip, and I was like, Who's Pip? He is a deckhand, and he is not white.
Okay.
And it's usually, it's played by like a young woman, and I was like, hey, I have a couple of questions about being this stunt double, and who will be playing the regular Pip in it? And it ended up being after tons of auditions and stuff, where they were like, would you be comfortable wearing, I don't know, like makeup, not any specific type of makeup, but like a lot of it on your face? And after people being like, probably not, they just cast a white woman to play Pip. And I was like, okay, but now what you've done, see, is take a job away from a person of color because you wanted people to black up. Anyway, it was a whole thing. I just think that we're probably at a point where we can just like maybe have not a template, but maybe just some empathy with how to deal with racism in plays and musicals.
And especially when you have works within that same canon that pretty much hold up and are still funny
Yeah.
and are still delightful and
Yeah.
and especially hold up because they are, as the Brits would say, taking the piss out of, British culture itself, kind of. I mean, so the whole okay, so there's so many layers here. I mean, like, I think that let's start with the fact that these pirates are like presented to be the most gentlemanly pirates ever. Like, the very first thing you learn about them is that they don't attack anybody weaker than them, and it's just like, what kind of pirate?
Crazy.
Isn't that the exact like whole thing of piracy?
Kind of what you do, isn't it?
And anybody that they try to take over that says that they are an orphan, that they will let free because they are all also orphans.
Yes. Yes.
Which is also just kind of, that's like a great like comic trait of a group. Like, obviously
Yeah.
we're all orphans.
Yeah, to have a code of conduct, as first of all, to have a code of conduct
Right.
as pirates, but
Right.
one based around we're orphans, and that is really sad. So anyone else that's sad in that really specific way, exactly like us, I'm not gonna fuck with you, okay? Because like, hey, bro, honestly, bro, to be honest, like for real, being an orphan fucking blows hard. So like, honestly, bro, I'm not even gonna touch it. Like, it's so funny to have your own specific. You've decided where your honor lies as a pirate.
But that's why it's like so funny to me to like think about, like, this is like the sort of dumbass British gentlemanly idea of like, well, we wouldn't, of course. Oh
Yeah.
no, not an orphan. No, certainly not.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're using your butter knife in place of your threatening knife, sir. You must use the threatening knife to threaten.
Oh, spot and bother. Sorry about that. Let me get the right knife. So then, okay, now the additional layer that we learned. So we first meet the pirates, and they're celebrating. Frederick is he was indentured, which also is funny. The idea that somebody's like indentured to be a pirate, that is like they're gonna be like taken on as like an apprentice. Which because his nursemaid who raised him from he was a boy, Angela Lansbury, we come to find out. So on his 21st birthday, he says, okay, I'm going to not be a pirate anymore now that my apprenticeship is done, because you see, I wasn't actually meant to be a pirate. Because classic misunderstanding, his nursemaid, Angela Lansbury, was told by Frederick's father to make him an apprentice to a pilot. But she misheard, classic misunderstanding, and instead went to the piracy apprenticeship program that was next door.
Yeah.
To the pilot
Yeah,
one.
she went to pirate TAFE instead
Yeah,
of pilot school. So
she went to
so
piracy tech or whatever.
like classic misunderstanding. She wrote the legal documents making him a pirate instead.
So Frederick says, I'm gonna leave, and then they're like, well, what about this lady that raised you? And the pirates are like, yeah, you should take her with you. And he's like, I kind of want to like go do my own thing now, actually. I'm like, good. And they're like, no, you're gonna take her with you. And then
because I really like the thing where he basically has a conversation that's like, hey, yeah, and like she's great and all, but like she's like the only woman I've ever seen, and
Yes.
what if she's not
Right.
hot?
And that's they
I don't
present
even
that
know what hot looks like.
she's literally the only woman he's ever seen as is
Yeah.
presented. And so he's like, I think she might be like maybe older than maybe I should be with, and also
she's, like,
maybe not the
old.
most attractive. Like,
Yeah, because like I was young when I met her, and she was like not. And I think if time is linear, dudes, like she ain't bangable in a lot of ways.
right.
Like, but
So
they're also like, yeah, we know. That's why you got to take her, dude.
So they have a whole funny exchange where she's like, and she kind of starts to get him, and she's like, come on, I've taken such good care of you, and he's sort of like, oh, maybe, and then she makes classic mistake of dropping how old she actually is, of 47 years old, and he's like,
Disgusting.
47? Wow, no. I mean, he is 21. This is more than
21.
twice his age, so... Like, that is, like, he's like, I don't know. And so he gets pissed at her for trying to, like, and he's like, go away, I don't like you anymore. I'm gonna go do my own thing because but the reason he gets pissed at her actually is he's like, okay, maybe, and then he hears some singing off in the distance and he looks and it's women and he's like, why even the, and I love, he keeps saying it like this, he's like, even the plainest one is so beautiful. It's like, and so he's like, no, you lied to me, those are hot women, you're not a hot woman, go away.
You get out of here, you fucking uggo. And then he leaves to find these just, I mean, they're pretty. They're pretty. I think Angela Lansbury's pretty.
Right.
They've done her a disservice.
They're
However,
certainly younger.
47.
And they are such a fun ensemble. Like, it is truly, I think, the second most fun ensemble. We'll get to the most fun ensemble, but they have.
I hope it's the same one I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they have just the best time because it is always fun to kind of play like, but also they're playing the joke of they're so painfully horny and they really do want Frederick, but Frederick in his presentation is always so much like, oh, but you are all such dear ladies, but would one of you, however plain you might be, however, even the ugliest of you, would you maybe, leave your sense of duty to speak and be with an unaccompanied, man while you're like whatever, because this is like against decorum or whatever. And they're all like,
listen, guys, I would love a 10, but I'll take a fucking 7.
yeah.
Honestly.
And they're all like, we really can't because we're such proper ladies, and especially because he's presenting it in such a way that it's like you're such. They're like, well, now we really can't, until the bad girl sister joins in. And folks, let's take a second to talk. Well, we should talk about Kevin Kline. We'll get more into it, but we should talk about my girl Linda fucking Rodstadt. So she was in the original Shakespeare in the Park, Broadway, all of them. She was, and I mean, like, people would eventually come in and replace her in each of these. She wouldn't be there like the entire if it ran a year or something. Yeah. Or she would typically move on to go to the next, London and then whatever. And so she was one of the biggest, pop stars of the 70s. Like one of the biggest solo recording artists really of all time. And she was like, okay, I like pop singing, but let's try something else. And like this, if you haven't seen the documentary about Linda Ronstadt, The Sound of My Voice, I recommend it because she's got a
I haven't.
Very interesting life. She had just a lot of really interesting phases that you don't even maybe know about of like in her career. And so this is kind of one of them where she's like, I'm going to learn to be an operatic soprano, because if you listen to like her pop songs, she's an alto, like belter, rock vocalist at times. And she does the damn thing. Like, she doesn't sound like somebody that has been training operatically their entire life. She has her pop sound in there sometimes, but it really colors it in a really nice way. I really love her.
She does like operatic shit the way that Freddie Mercury tried to when he was like, when he was like, I'm gonna do Barcelona. I don't give a fuck that you all hate it and it sucks. It sounds bad. It is a bad song. But I've got Monstretta Caballé, right? You like her. We don't know who she is, dude. So I think she does kind of, she does a similar like operatic thing, but it's sublime in my opinion. She sounds fucking sick. Are you kidding me? I love that.
And it's a really, really like reading about just like how it's considered even like in operatic circles. It's considered one of the very like hardest, certainly women parts in Gilbert and Sullivan, because she does need to have a good low end in addition to go insanely high. Like some of her songs, she really needs to like be a little down there a little bit more, and then sometimes she needs to be doing trills all over the place up there. So, but also it's another fun ingenue part because it's like she's kind of the bad, not the bad sister, but like the sister who will always be the one to be like, can't you take pity on him or whatever, and is like the one that most doting on her father, who then we're about to meet. Pirates come back in here. I'm going to try to speed up the plot here because it all kind of speeds up at this point anyway. Pirates come in. Pirates are like, okay, we're going to take you girls. We're going to marry you, obviously. And then Mabel says, no, you can't do that because you see our father is A major general. That's right, folks. Here he is. The one song you know from this show. He comes in and he sure enough does sing it. And I think there's a reason that this is the song that like everybody knows, because on the surface it is just that very, very fast talking. But actually you can go through these lyrics and they're very funny. Like, one thing I'm going to call bullshit on. I'm going to call bullshit on you, Major General, when you say you're talking about geometry and shit, and you say about binomial theorem, I am teeming with a lot of news, and then you pretend like you don't know what you're going to rhyme it with. When you've clearly set up the rhyme to set up the phrase, the square of the hypotenuse. You know you wanted to put hypotenuse in there, idiot.
A lot of news. Who says a lot of news? Just apropos of fuck off.
After saying binomial theorem, lot of news. Come on, man.
Can I tell you my favorite lyric from Wolf Creek the Musical that I wrote that was like that we found? So we wanted to write. This is what it was. It's so the murderer, right, in Wolf Creek the Musical is talking about, he's like, I never had a girlfriend, I never had a wife, I never really cared for the so-called finer things in life, like fancy cars or fancy clothes or fancy cheese on crackers. And the only thing I truly love is abducting young backpackers. And it's like so
fancy
clearly
cheese on crackers.
to talk about backpackers. Like, yeah.
No, it's,
and it's like, it's the, and I guess what I'm saying is like, fuck Gilbert and Sullivan, like I could do it, but no, it's like that is I also think that even though it is full of like really funny shit and good jokes anyway, that is the far reaching of rhymes like that is the best joke to me in any of these types of songs. And like how far you have to reach to rhyme that shit is so good.
And having seen a few productions of this, which, okay, actually, I just realized, I talked about this before the show with you, but I should say now, this is the reason that I know so much about the show is, A, I did it in high school, my freshman year of high school. But B, this was one of the first shows that I saw at a very young age performed that I was like, I want to do theater. And it was because my brother did a production at, no holderness talk here, all right?
Yeah, I had to get in the chat to just yell no at Popo.
Are any of my mods, are any of my, here, can I?
Yeah, we'll do band term holderness.
Yeah.
Because they do the opposite. They do not even the most obvious rhymes.
Want to ban? I'm gonna add holderness as a band term. We don't talk about them. That's a disgrace to musical theater. In many ways.
We can't have it. Yeah.
Wait. My brother, when he was in 6th grade, was at a like magnet gifted program at elementary school, and they did a full production of The Pirates of Penzance, and he played Frederick, and you know, a kid played Major General, kid played the Pirate King, kid played, you know, and I was like, they are having the best time. That looks so funny. That looks so fun. And that was one of the very first times. When I did it again in high school, my brother, who had not done really, especially not in high school, any theater, and hadn't really done much of any between that time, came back. He said, I only do productions of Pirates of Penzance. And he played the chief of, I think, Demi and my favorite ensemble, the Police, the chief of police. And that's the part I really want to play. That's the part I really do want to play.
That was what I was going to say as well. If I was, oh my God, it's so fucking good. And I looked up because I desperately needed to know more about this man who was played in, he was played by Tony Azito. Am I going too far forward?
No. We're into Act 2. Act 1 happens. Guess how the Major General gets out of his daughters marrying all these people. He tells them he's an orphan, and then they all sing a happy song about how it's fine, and then Frederick's going to be free to go with them. Act 2 comes, and now Major General's wrecked with guilt because he lied, and he's worried that they're going to find out because he's not an orphan, and he calls his police to come, and they are led by they're just one of the most just funny ensembles. Like,
It's
in
so good because
anything.
like every single person in that ensemble is fucking great. But Tony Azito does some of the like coolest, funniest physical shit I've ever seen.
He like falls and then like continues like flipping completely over when he's flat as a board. Like, I don't understand how he does
He
stuff
looks
like
like
that.
somebody like bred a marionette with like olive oil from Strong Spinach Boy. Popeye. Like the way that he moves
Strong
is
Spinach Boy's better.
fucking insane. And like, you know, when he does that move where he's like, there's a thing that he's doing that makes me think that his legs are on like hinges, where he's like he does it with his arms as well, but he's like spins his leg and does a kick and then does it again the other way. And there's a thing where he like spins his arm around and whacks himself in the head and spins his leg as if like he's fucking like jelly, like he's fucking flubber or whatever, and then just keeps dancing.
Right.
It's fucking so good and so much fun to watch.
And
like,
then he's like backed up by this like on some like the policemen who are like completely locked in, where they're like pointing and they're like and the bits that they're doing, and like the first production number with them is an incredible production number. Like that might be the best number in the show.
It's so fun. I think so. I'm gonna put my bet in for that it's the best one, because I thought it was so fucking cool. And then also the song is really good. Like I just keep like,
well, it has the very funny joke, which is a very funny like. Also, I mean, so this is what I will say: a cab, including these cops, because that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why they're funny, is because they're incompetent cowards. That satire, for some reason, still funny. For some reason,
weird.
that satire of the police. I don't know why.
I don't know why I relate to the way that these police behave so much.
Why
but
is
I
it so
really
funny that they are...
that they suck shit.
That they seem to be like terrified of everything. Because that's another thing that's really funny, is that when the policemen do eventually face down with the pirates, and they like are actually having the face down, they like circle each other, and then like the pirates go like take one step forward, and the policemen like drop their truncheons and run away.
Yeah. Hide behind some fucking dogs they found. It's so good. I can't believe the way that man. I'm gonna watch it over and over again. I'm gonna try and fucking learn how he moves that way.
I know. I was thinking about that. I was like, I almost wanted to just like put on like some of these whole numbers, but like I knew we were just gonna do a lot of talking. We have kind of glossed over, and well, I think now is actually a good time, because we talked about Angela Lansbury and Ruth a bit, but where I really think Kevin Kline as the Pirate King really pops off is when he comes in the second act. And he and Ruth, who's now a pirate wench fully, and her pirate outfit. Can we talk about it? I mean,
my god,
great pirate wench outfit, like amazing.
And they've taken away her like weird, like unattractive old lady buns on the side of her head, and I'm like, this is how you were always meant to be. You're supposed to be a
she's a
pirate
little
lady,
hot now. Yes,
yeah,
and
so good.
You're happy for Ruth, yeah.
And also that I called her fucking Beth before, but she also, like, the way that she moves and stuff makes me really happy, because I'm like, see, maybe she's 47, but she can still do it all. And like, I don't know, Angela Lansbury brings shit, like some good
Thanks
shit
for
to
the
everything.
follow,
but
Inkmo. Sorry, keep going.
Inkmo! Hey, Inkmo. Love you. Good to
Ruth and Beth are very similar names.
They're similar, but honestly, I should be put in the gallows for making that mistake. But I really, I just fucking love that transformation, because I was like, I know she's going to come back, and I hope it's not in like no, please give me that chongus.
No, she's moved on. She's moved on now.
She's a fucking pirate queen now. I'm like so into it. She looks amazing, man.
Though
I want the outfit.
Though I do think she's still scheming for Frederick in this too, because and I will say, if you love Angela Lansbury scheming for a man, yeah, you're gonna want to watch Sweeney Todd. The Pirate King, who Kevin Kline was, this was kind of largely what sort of launched him to big stardom, because soon after this he does A Fish Called Wanda. He wins an Academy Award for that. He wins a Tony Award for this, which is the Broadway or whatever, and this like really puts him on the map in a big way. Yeah, it's just the most fun. I mean, like, the whole vibe of the performances, he's like, wouldn't it be fun to just be like, who gives a shit? I'm a pirate king. And you're like, yeah, man.
Yeah, hey, you know what? Fucking yeah, dude. That would be fun.
Honestly, because he's also so chill. Like, that's the thing, is they're the least menacing pirates ever. It's like the joke of it.
Yeah, it's so good. I think as well, like the shit that they bring to also that insanely fast song after they explain to him that he's, which if I may take the lead for a second, they explain to him in also a song that I very much enjoyed, that because and they say, oh, this is the other thing that I love about the Pirate King, is he's like, I know we're just pirates, but here's a whole shit ton of very, very, very long words. Even though I'm a stupid dipshit pirate, here's a bunch of shit I shouldn't even understand in any way, shape, or form, sung very, very, very fast. And just say by like, they're blaming an astronomer for
for why there's a 29th day in February once every 4 years. Yes.
And so technically they're saying that Frederick is only 5 and a bit in his age because he was born on the 29th of February.
Right. And that his contract, and this is also another good joke that they added. I think this is an added one, where he says, he pulls out the contract. He says, your 21st Yabaro, and then he turns it upside down and says birthday, and that's always great. The classic read it upside down after he's just said these long words, and then he pretends like he can't read. So then they he
can read so well that he reads upside down and backwards, but fucks it up because he's a dipshit pirate. Right. I love it. His delivery of that line is amazing too. It's not just like, we decided.
He has a great running bit where he opens his shirt. He likes to be showing his chest tuff, and at one point when Angela Lansbury is singing her song in the beginning, she looks over to him and kind of closes his chest, and he is and he just opens it again. Yeah, the Patter Doesn't Matter song was, I think they just wanted to extend that comic scene with them a bit because it was really hitting, honestly. And I'm not mad at it. It doesn't really add a ton, to your point.
It doesn't add that much. It just kind of extends that one scene. They're kind of doing the same bit again, but because the it really doesn't matter whole bit was so fast and impressive. Which also, the thing that I did like about that though is because Angela Lansbury and what's Pirate King's name again?
Kevin Kline.
But I think particularly Angela Lansbury, while mouthing this super fast song, is still doing so much. She's doing faces and moving her body about, and I'm like, I could not fucking concentrate if I'm trying to make this look real. There's no way that I would be even trying. I thought that was really impressive.
If I'm guessing, that's how she remembers. It's the way that you learn that as a musical actor is you learn it at a tenth the speed, and you do it that slow, and it becomes the hardest.
Not Getting Married Today
is
one of those ones that you would have to learn at
Demi,
a fucking
guys,
tenth of the speed.
Demi just referenced Sondheim all on her own. There we go. We love it.
I don't know. I'm just a little guy. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, I just anytime that a Sondheim show. No, but that's exactly how you do it, and it becomes really hard to do slow. Is you want to start speeding it up at a certain point, but you keep it regimented and you keep going slightly faster and slightly faster to that, and then so that at that point when you're getting the fast, it's almost like a whole body learned thing. So that's probably why she's contorting like that. Is that's how she remembers it. So anyway, then Frederick goes back to Mabel, and he's like, okay, well, and the whole joke of Frederick's character and it's his whole dumbassness is that he calls himself a slave of duty, and that's actually the subtitle of the show, because all Gilbert and Sullivan shows have subtitles for some reason. And so he says, well, I have to abide by this contract, and he goes and tells Mabel,
I'm honorable, and because I'm so honorable, I have to go keep being a pirate. Unfortunately, I'm 5.
Also, part of being honorable now is that now that he's back in the employ of the pirates legally, he has to tell them what he knows, that the Major General lied to them. And so
Yeah.
now they're mad. And so now he has to go be with the pirates. And the first thing the pirates are going to do is go after the Major General, do whatever, kill him, whatever. Presumably.
It's so good as well how fucking hurt the Pirate King is.
Yes.
He's so
He
genuinely
cannot
hurt
believe.
that somebody lied to him.
Well, and
That he's gonna fucking kill him.
and so this is also, so the orphan often, where that happens is when the Major General first tells the Pirate King that he's an orphan. He goes, the way that it happens is he says, "Do you know what it is to be an orphan? Oh, wait, have you ever known what it is to be an orphan?" And they say, "Ugh, orphan." And he goes, "Yes, an orphan." And they're like, "No, often." And then that's this whole funny interchange about often, frequently versus orphan, a person who has left his parents, which they have to clarify.
Which again took me a very long time to get. Because I was like, did he say the words orphan frequently? I don't understand. Can you please, who is on first?
Yeah. Right. It's exactly like a Who's on First, which this came like 60 years before Who's on First, even, which is like the oldest bit.
Yeah.
So that's funny. But I love because when Frederick tells him, he's like, "The Major General isn't an orphan," and he like starts to get upset, and he goes, "Wait, do you mean orphan frequently or orphan a person who's left his parents?" And that's very funny. So anyway, then they all have a whole clash. The policeman is like, oh, and Mabel then calls the policeman and tells them to go fight. And they sing a very funny song about a policeman's lot is not a happy one when a felon's not engaged in his employment. So basically they're saying that they don't have crime to crack. It's not happy. So I don't know. It's
Also,
they're doing a tap dance.
It's oh my god, the policeman, like the song as well, about them being like, the whole point of the song is them being like, "Go off to die for your honor," and the policeman being like, "That's actually not, if I can just like be open with you, that's actually
you don't
not,
have to put
like,
it that way,
the way to communicate with me. If I'm just being completely honest, like it doesn't make me want to do that for you." Like,
right.
The whole point of that scene is so funny to me, just to be like, yeah, if you could be more encouraging and not like reminding me how I'm gonna fucking die, that would be great.
Yeah. I mean,
really made me happy.
I will say George Rose as Major General is very funny. I love the way that he talks. He has a very funny accent. Very funny. I've hit the points that I wanted to make sure I hit. Because it's late. I've been going crazy like the past few days. I'm still awake. Yep. It's all good here now. But we've been going long here, Demi. Is there anything else that we need to cover here in Pirates of Penzance that we haven't talked about besides?
Is there anything else that we need to?
It's just very fun, honestly. It's just how I feel.
It's really fun. I think it is.
I wasn't able to finally. Okay, let me tell you the saga of how I was finally able to watch this today. So we moved in all of our furniture yesterday. We got all of our stuff here, and I don't know how to mount a TV, but my mom was gonna help me, and she was gonna do it yesterday. And she's like, "Can I just do it on Saturday?" I'm like, "Fine, come today." It was a very hard process. It took a long time. We had to go to the hardware store to try, because the screws that were provided in the bag didn't work, and we couldn't find the exact way. And anyway, it was a whole saga. We get it up, and it's taken a few hours at this point, and it's up. And I realized I have all the cords that I need to watch this TV, except the power cord that I left at my old apartment. So I have to then drive to my old apartment, like 30 minutes away, pick it up and get some other stuff and come back. And then
you can just plug that bitch into like 20 potatoes and it's cartoons. Believe that.
I was about to I don't know, rub some sticks together or something. That wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. But then I finally got it. So I had watched a few scenes. I skipped through it the other night, but I hadn't seen it since I was like 12 or 13 or something, and I just watched it a few hours ago, and I had the best time after being exhausted. My body hurts. I just still had the best time watching it.
It's fucking great. It's so much fun. It's also isn't it Linda Ronstadt's this is the only movie she was ever in? This is like her only film, right?
I think so,
sure
yeah.
it's her only
Really her
credit.
only acting. Like, she did this, and she's like, okay, I think I nailed it. I got nominated for a Tony Award. I feel good.
So I'm kind of fucking done.
And then she's like, and
which I think
now
is a
I'm
good way
gonna
to go.
do a trio with Emmylou Harris and Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
And then
Is
I'm
that cool
gonna
with you guys?
record a Tejano album like my father taught me when I was a little girl and sing all of the songs that he used to sing to me. She's amazing.
Yeah.
So if we can convey anything, so here's homework for everybody, okay? If you haven't seen The Pirates of Penzance, I recommend it. Check it out. Demi has to watch Sweeney Todd with Angela Lansbury. You will thank me. It's my favorite musical. Like, not a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the movie. The movie's not a good representation.
Definitely don't watch the one with Johnny Depp.
Honestly, Johnny Depp is fine. It's Helena Bonham Carter. That's a disaster.
This is what I was gonna say. And Helena Bonham Carter, bless her soul, she can only do the one thing.
Right. And it doesn't work
it's
for
have
that part.
messy hair, basically.
That's a part that was intended for Angela Lansbury, you understand. So that's what you're really supposed to be getting. Yeah. And she's like, I'm going to be zanned out for some reason, and like, oh, God, not good.
I don't know. I made a fucking pie.
Whatever, it's a
want to eat
pie. Like, the whole thing is that she's this
Exactly.
woman that's like super desperate and really wants to fuck this man. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then the last bit of homework, everybody, is Linda Ronstadt Sound of My Voice documentary. I think it's on HBO Max, I want to say. Great documentary. Demi, anything else you would like to plug? So your podcast is very funny, your Twitch stream.
Yeah, I mean, my Twitch stream, I'm working on new stuff for the Twitch stream as well. I'm gonna be I'm still playing Resident Evil 8, but I am gonna start playing the Logical Adventure of the Zoombinis.
Ooh.
And which, have you ever played Zoombinis?
No, I don't know that.
It's like a thing that you play when you're in like 3rd grade to try and get like logic and maths and pattern skills.
Oh,
but
that reminds me of
really...
when the Go Off Kings would play Putt Putt Goes to the Moon on stream,
like
which of course we all know canonically Jesse Farrar does hold the speed run record of Putt Putt Goes to the Moon. It took him 3 seconds.
You know what it is? Yes. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm going to be playing that soon. I'm still going to be playing Resident Evil 8. My podcast is called BigSoftTitty.png. If anyone's in the Gold Coast, I'm going there in like 5 or 6 days to do some live comedy for the first time in like a billion years. So if you want to see that shit, I'm going to do that. And then on the 6th of June, I'm going to be doing a live stream of me burying my boyfriend in the earth. So if you want to tune in, it's twitch.tv/Demi Lardner. I'm going to be digging a hole and burying my boyfriend in that hole. I'm going to have a lot of guests who are going to like be singing songs about holes or by Hole, the band, and some other friends.
Is anybody going to do like a dramatic reading from the movie Holes with Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking demand it. So all hole. That's a pretty much all hole stream. We're gonna be talking holes, loving holes, and putting Tom in a hole. So if you wanna,
what day is that again?
6th of June, Australia time, and it'll probably be starting around midday-ish.
Okay, so that might be starting around the 5th of June here. Well, we'll see. Just follow Demi if you haven't already done so, because and like. You know, even when Demi, it's the middle of the night when she streams, I watch the VOD, folks, because it's funny as fuck, honestly.
I'm okay. Mainly I'm panicked and I yell and I forget how to say stuff.
And let me tell you,
so
and you hope that she gets rated, because you want the raid. You always want
the raid song's very good.
Well, thank you so much, Demi. This is awesome. This has been such a fun episode. Thank you everybody that's joined, all the new friends. Thank you everybody that followed. If I missed thanking you for following, thank you. Come back again. I'm going to take a week off because it's Memorial Day here and I'm exhausted. But we're going to have fun shows coming out. I got some really fun guests that I'm talking with that we have. June is going to be a lot of fun. So please keep following and stay tuned. And Demi, just you're the best. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. What fun.
Oh, yay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.